Vivo's X series of flagships often fall under the radar in mainstream tech press, partly because the phones come so late in the year, usually mid-December, when much of the Western media are already in holiday mode, and mainly because Vivo, unlike fellow Chinese brands Oppo and Xiaomi, does not hold lavish launch events in Europe or Asian metropolises. But within the Android phone nerd circles, particularly those who are into mobile photography, the X series has become one of the most anticipated releases of the year. That's because Vivo's last few X flagship phones had a strong case for being the best camera phone on the market when they launched. And the just-launched X100 Pro is no exception. In fact, I'm going to remove the word "arguably" for the X100 Pro in one particular category. In portrait photography, the X100 Pro is the best performer of any smartphone right now, period. The X100 Pro sports a 50-megapixel periscope zoom lens and Zeiss APO floating design, with a new Vario-Apo-Sonnar elements. What does that mean in plain English? The lens can shift forward and backwards so it can get focus on subjects at various distances. Vivo also gave the camera a fast f/2.5 aperture and a relatively large 1/2-inch sensor. The result is the most capable zoom lens hardware in a phone. But that's not all. Vivo also has a really good software algorithm, one that I've praised for the last few years, that always fine-tunes HDR for balanced dynamic range. There's also a vintage filter that makes photos look less digital and feel more like an analog film camera. Here are 100mm portraits I've snapped over the past few weeks of using the phone. The zoom lens is so good, producing shots that look organic and lively with natural-looking bokeh, that it has inspired me to become an amateur street photographer of sorts, snapping at least a few hundred photos a day. Vivo's zoom lens can produce cleaner, noise-free images than most other smartphone zoom cameras. The difference is very noticeable in low light conditions. The below photos of the cats are impressively noise-free for low-light zoom photos snapped with a phone. I'm particularly blown away by this shot below of the espresso machine. Notice there's subtle background and foreground bokeh, depth of field blur, giving the image depth that smartphone shots usually lack. Outside of the zoom lens, the X100 Pro also has a capable 1-inch main camera, but this is nothing new. It's similar to last year's excellent X90 Pro Plus. The rest of the phone is also very similar to last year's X90, with a similar design language with a curved 120 Hz OLED screen. There is a new chip powering the phone, the MediaTek Dimensity 9300, which is a flagship chip, but not quite as efficient as rival the Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Gen 3. The Dimensity chip is powerful enough to handle most daily tasks, but battery life doesn't seem to last as long as Snapdragon-powered phones, and the X100 Pro runs warmer than usual.